Welcome to another special episode of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my review of the Twilight Zone television series. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me, at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you make it to the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for having me on the network and putting all my shows up there. As always, if you want to help the show, there are some different ways to do that. You can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction. You can also sign up for the Patreon page, where you'll get 2 extra episodes of the show whenever possible, usually every week, true paranormal stories from the web for signing up for any paid membership level there. Or you can just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, especially these days, as there are expenses of making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. Just a quick note on the research materials, that can include streaming services. That's an expense in a way. So it's may not seem like much, but it is there. So yeah, that covers all of that. And we are on the next episode of this review here, we're reviewing this episode 11, number 11, and the title is What You Need. And so this starts off with a man walking into a restaurant. He's his last name is Pedolt, Pedolt, and he has a case of basically a large case that he carries into a restaurant. And when he walks into this restaurant and he tries to start selling things to people at random that he meets, and when he enters this bar, he talks to one of the people there. It's a woman, and he gives her a small vial of cleaning fluid, and she thanks him, and because at first he asks her what she needs, and she doesn't know of anything she needs, and he gets this look in his eyes, or he has a certain look, and then he gives her this vial of cleaning fluid. So he goes further into the bar and finds this ex-baseball player who is sitting at the bar, who is a regular there, and starts to ask him what he needs and what he would like from his collection of things to sell. And this baseball player also doesn't know what he needs. And this is where things get weird in a way that this doesn't make sense at first. This peddler, as the description here calls him, or sales sort of just merchant, reaches into his box and pulls out a bus ticket to another town, Scranton, Pennsylvania. And moments later, this baseball player gets a phone call over the payphone inviting him to accept a coaching position for a team in Scranton. And he notices this spot after this phone call on his jacket. This is the baseball player that he wants to remove before he heads out there. Now, of course, the woman that this merchant had first met comes over and says, well, here, I have this vial of cleaning solution. And so they start talking and trying to figure out what happened, because this doesn't make sense. So another guy in the bar who is basically frustrated. He's basically not a very nice person. He's and he's been not had very much success as far as business goes. And so this guy, his name is Fred Renard, asks Pedalt to give him what he needs, and is given a pair of scissors. So Renard leaves the bar, and he goes back home to his apartment. Well, on his way into his apartment, he takes the elevator, and of course, this is 1959. And they have extra and different doors on elevators back then. They have the kind, sort of the not the solid plate doors like you see now most places. These have the grading, the designs on the doors. And when he's in the elevator, he doesn't realize it, but part of his scarf that he was wearing gets caught in these elevator doors, and it starts to choke him. And he's trying to get free. He's yelling, he's shouting. No one notices, and no one could really get to him in time anyway if they did notice. And he remembers at the last second these scissors. He takes them out, and he cuts himself free. And so he goes to find Penalt, this man, with this case of goods and this ability, it seems, to know what people need before they need it. So sort of, again, precognition in a way. And so he finds Penalt in his home, and basically tells him, look, you're going to help me become successful. You're going to help me with everything I need, and I'll help you. And so he starts to get sort of rough with this older, shorter man. And so Penalt gives this Renard, there we go, that's the name, fountain pen, and it leaks. And it leaks onto a newspaper that is open to a page that is talking about the next horse race that is coming up. And so this guy, this Renard, knowing what has happened before, bets a bunch of money on this horse. And so it's a newspaper racing column. That's what it was. That wasn't this drop of ink falls onto. And so Renard goes away because now he has what he thinks he needs. And so he makes a bunch of money off of this horse in this race, thanks to this leaky pen that leaks one spot onto this one paper, this one location on this newspaper. And so Renard tries to use the pen again. He basically lets it, opens it up and tries to get it to leak on another newspaper column about racing that mentions all the horses, and to try to repeat what happened with the first time. And no ink comes out of the pen the way it did before. So he goes back to Pedalt, who and demands to know what is going on, why the pen won't leak anymore, why he can't use it the same way he did the first time. Pedalt reveals that he only gives items to people, and that's an important point there. He does sell items here and there, but the ones he gives to people, he only gives them to people that they need, but the item is only good for one use. And he tells Renard that he can't supply things like serenity and peace of mind, which is, he's sort of hinting at that's what Renard needs. Renard doesn't want to hear any of this, and he demands that this man, this Pedalt, gives him what he needs again. And again, not getting the message that he should be focusing more on sort of himself and improving himself and being happy and all these things. So, and so he demands this again, and he pushes Pedalt around. And then Pedalt looks at his case and then looks back at Renard, and Renard seizes a pair of shoes from the case and puts them on, thinking that must be what he needs next. And Pedalt doesn't say anything because he just wants to get out of the situation. And Pedalt says that the shoes are exactly what Renard needs, after all. Because Renard doesn't really believe him this time, I'm guessing here. And but these shoes are too tight, and he's walking on wet pavement. And he slips and falls. Renard slips and falls and is killed by a passing car. Run over by this car. Pedalt then sort of is talking to himself and to the place where Renard was at, and says that he actually gave Renard the shoes not because Renard needed them, but because Pedalt, needed them. Because he was sure that Renard was going to murder him. And so he gave Renard the shoes to steal. He basically allowed Renard to steal the shoes to prevent his own death. And as he leaves, he gives a comb to a man who came after this man and his wife came out of the house after hearing the crash and everything everything that happened. And because at first he does try to, Pedalt tries to sell this couple whatever they might want, and they don't know what they need. And again, every time, Pedalt just has this feeling that he knows what that someone needs. And of course, the media shows up, wanting to know what happened, and they want to feature this couple at a photograph for a news story on the accident. And that this newspaper reporter and photographer says, "Well, try to make yourselves look nice for the photo. This guy that has this comb now uses a comb to comb his hair, and it's magically, of course, through TV, looks so much better." But anyway, and after the newspaper reporter leaves, the husband and the wife look at each other, realizing that was just what he had needed. And Pedalt goes on his way and leaves the area. And so you have this whole story about precognition and this person that has it trying to use it to help people, and then this other person, Renard, trying to take advantage of it, and how it didn't work out the way he wanted in the end. And at first, when I started watching this episode, I was wondering if it was going to be something similar to some of the earlier episodes where you had these different aspects of reality, possibly. Henry, I think it was Henry Fate, and then of course Mr. Death. Things like that. I was wondering if he was going to be one of those kinds of characters, but he's not directly. Excuse me. He's not exactly that. He just has this ability, which throughout time, and even to today, people seem to have, in different ways, ideas or abilities. They seem to have this ability to get messages or information or to come upon it, whether they're asleep or awake. There's different versions of how this happens, about things that could happen in the future. And it's an ability that some people seem to have. Other people seem to know how to use it better. Others just, it happens and they deal with it as it happens. The weirdest thing to me about that is I think there's different versions of that in a way. Different ways it can sort of present itself, this precognition. Different types of it, as far as some people will get specific information about things that are going to happen, names, people, places, whatever, dates. And then there's other weird things. I'm wondering how common this is, where I've talked about this before. I've had dreams of places I've never been to before, only to go there months or years later. And it's the place that I saw in a dream, which now I think they were more like possibly out-of-body experiences than just regular dreams. Because, and even, they weren't even necessarily memories coming back to the past from the future, because in the dreams, there's never anyone in these places when I am wandering around in them. But when I go there in person, of course, there's people. It's even, in some cases, it's nighttime in the dream, especially for the ones where I was younger, when I had to be on more of a schedule. And then, of course, when I go to a place, it's daytime, and the lighting is different, but I can still tell that I recognize the place. I don't know how that works, but it has happened several times. And I think we'll just kind of close out this episode with this, because there's not enough time, I don't think, to go through a whole other episode. Just the way that this has happened with me, and I wonder how often this happens with other people, and they don't focus on it, or don't like to think about it, or tell people about it, because it just seems too weird to them, or they figure no one will believe them. Luckily for me at this point, I've shared enough of my experiences where, to each their own, as far as what they believe or don't, obviously. But I'm still okay with sharing them, because I think that's important to do. For everyone, if possible, to talk about paranormal things they've experienced. And so that maybe someday, with enough information, we can start to see more and more patterns in how these things happen and why, and all those things. Not that I think that we'll ever know how all of it works, but sort of collaborating and collecting more and more information about experiences, that I don't think it can hurt overall. So, my favorite one of these experiences I've had involved 3 different dreams. And of course, this is over the space of years. Excuse me. I had this dream about being in a hallway, and ahead of me there was a brick wall, and I moved towards it, and there was a table with 2 comfortable-looking lounge chairs kind of things there. And the hallway, when I looked to my right and left, of course, it was a T intersection of hallways there. To my right, I could see a room filled with tables and chairs from what I could see of it. I couldn't see a lot of it from where I was at. But I could also see that the entire wall was all just, it appeared to be glass. And it appeared to be dark. And I couldn't see outside of anything. It just looked like a solid wall of dark. And I just had this feeling it was glass. Looked to my left, and there was a doorway leading outside. And again, it was night out. It was dark out. And there was no one there, but I could see streetlights outside. And that's where that dream ended. So sometime later, I had a second dream about being in a house, what seemed like a regular house, regular kitchen, just small kitchen, and I didn't recognize it though. And I went into the next room, and it was like a dining room, and it had multiple tables, but instead of having chairs along the tables, it had benches, which didn't make sense to me. And that's where that dream ended. And there was light, but it wasn't really bright. But it seemed to be dark outside. And I couldn't really see much outside, just dark. And so that's where that one ended. I have another one where it might have been 4, but I'm not sure about this third one here. So I don't always count it as part of the let's just say official narrative. I have this dream of being outside of a house or building with multiple garage doors. And it was a white building. I didn't know what it was. But this one was in the middle of the day when I was asleep and I had this dream. But anyway, there wasn't much to that one, so I don't really always talk about that one. But because I don't know for sure. But the last one I had that I am sure of, I was in another small building. Everything was made of wood, and I thought it was the house under renovations or reconstruction. And all the wood was exposed. Everything was just wood. The floors, the walls, the ceiling. And I was in one room, and I walked into another, and I could see, again, it was all wood, but I could see one of the windows looking outside, and it had that grid-like pattern of the wood covering the window, making it look like a bunch of little squares when I think it was probably one pane. But I don't know for sure either way. But so I had all these dreams. Years later, I went to a paranormal investigation public event kind of thing with family. And that night, we went to a restaurant first to eat dinner, and walked in there. We walked in through a door and came into the side of this intersection of hallways. I recognized the table and chairs and the brick wall right away. We walked into the restaurant, and it was all glass walls on the exterior walls. They were all glass windows. And so we had dinner, went to the event, and walked into the building where everyone was supposed to meet, walked into a small kitchen, and then walked into the dining room, and it had tables with benches. And it was all exactly as I had seen it in one of those dreams. And I don't have a lot of time left, so I'll just say throughout the night, we were in groups and we went to different places. Went to this, what used to be a hospital, and it was all under construction, renovation. It was all wood. Went into this room for the sort of the investigation part, had the exact same windows as I remembered in a previous dream. And I'm pretty sure that was not a body experience. So that's what I want to talk about there, kind of as another form of precognition, but not that I know how it works. But thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all on the next episode of Salsidoparanormal. Take care.